Aaron Rodgers has called out the coaching staff, specifically Robert Saleh, after an ugly loss to the Denver Broncos that saw Saleh have some not very encouraging comments in the press conference, and Aaron Rodgers was not seemingly thrilled with what Saleh had to say. We're going to break it down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. It's Chris and Matt here, and we're going to jump right into the video, but real quick, make sure you guys go and check out Nick's Digest. Matt and I are on a live stream almost every Friday, talking sports, talking Jets, talking Knicks, having a great time. It's really fun, very funny stuff. And also make sure you subscribe to the channel. Only 4.2% of you are subscribed. And if we don't get to 5%, Alex Pereira fights next week. That's when he's punching Matt in the face. But guys, we got to get down to business. The New York Jets, they lost. Obviously, it's their worst loss of the season. They've only lost 2 games in these 4 weeks. And just an awful loss. Aaron Rodgers did not play great. Obviously, Robert Saleh did not coach a great game. And there was a lot being said. And Aaron Rodgers specifically did not seem too thrilled when asked about all of this. As he mentioned, he doesn't want the team to be babied after there was the false start. The Jets have had some clock management issues in regards to just delay of game penalties. And when asked about Saleh's approach to cadence, he said that's one way to do it. The other is to hold them accountable. So clearly Aaron Rodgers does not believe the Jets are holding their players accountable enough, which has led to stupid, careless penalties in a game the Jets lost by 1 point. So obviously it had a massive effect on the outcome of this game. Matt, I mean, very, very ugly loss, and just Rodgers is right.
Yeah, so Chris obviously looked really bad on Sunday, where Jets fans were put in a time machine and took it back to last year, where it rained every home game and the offense looked terrible and the defense had to carry the whole way. The defense held Bo Nix to -7 passing yards in the first half, 60 passing yards for the game, and that was somehow good enough to get a win for the Denver Broncos. So right now, the news here is that Robert Saleh, he was asked about some things about how the game went, and he seemed really uncomfortable in the press conference and kind of seemed like he just wanted to get it over with. And he said a little bit about the cadence, but I really think the press reporter, when he asked Aaron Rodgers about the cadence, he kind of framed it in a way that made Robert Saleh, it made him sound like Saleh said they needed to use less cadence, when that's not exactly what he said. Because, of course, Aaron Rodgers is known for the hard count. He's known for catching the defense off sides and then going deep on you. It happened in week 1. Allen Lazard scored a touchdown. It happened in week 4. Garrett Wilson had that long pass down the sidelines where he caught it over Surtain. So it's a weapon for Aaron Rodgers. And over this year, so far, the Jets haven't had a problem with false starting penalties like this. They had 5 in this game. Aaron Rodgers, in another comment, he chalked it up to it was an outlier, and he doesn't want to make too many adjustments after an outlier. But if we're calling game 4 an outlier, and we said game 1 they weren't ready because they didn't hit enough in the preseason, how many outliers or games off do you get? Because there are only 17 games for the Jets in the season. They can't be dropping games like this. The next 2 games are against teams. We have next week the 4-0 Minnesota Vikings. The year after that, the week after that, the 3-1 Buffalo Bills. Those are both scary games. And then after that, we have the 3-1 Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. So we got to get this figured out. The number one thing that's got to get figured out is whatever's going on with the pre-snap penalties for this game, and for the beginning of the season. They're just getting the plays in. Whatever's happening behind the scenes, Coach Saleh said there's a problem with the operation. Now, the operation has to do with getting the play called and getting everyone on the same page pre-snap. Chris, I think you mentioned it earlier in this video. Maybe it was earlier when we were talking to each other before the video started, how the Jets had so much problems just getting to the lines and getting the line of scrimmage and getting the play called. If you were watching, it happened so much in the Titans game. It happened so much against the Patriots. And now it happened again in this game against the Broncos. 4th down and 1 after Riley Moss, the cornerback for the Denver Broncos, helpfully gave the Jets the ball 1st and goal from the 1, and they couldn't punch the ball in. 4th down, they were going to go for it, and surprise, surprise, they got a false start. They were forced to settle for a field goal after that. The Jets have to get this solved going forwards against, also, offensive line. horrible, horrible, absolutely horrible on Sunday. The run game, Breece Hall, 1 carry in the second half. He had 10 carries for the game for, I believe it was, I have it right in front of me. I think it was 4 yards. Yeah, I had to double check it because it's an insane number. 4 yards for Breece Hall. That's an average of 0.4 yards per carry, Chris. That's not what we're expecting out of what we believe is a star running back. And that's not what we're expecting out of our entire offense. Aaron Rodgers was sacked 5 times, so the pass blocking wasn't good enough. A ton of pressures on top of the sacks as well. The run blocking, not a lot of holes for Breece to get through, not a lot of holes for Braylon Allen to get through. And like I said, it felt like last year. I feel like the offense really left the defense out to dry this game.
Yeah, this was very reminiscent of a last year game. It was raining. The Jets couldn't move forwards with the ball. I cannot comprehend why this team has gotten so many delay of game penalties and other pre-snap penalties all season long. It's infuriating to watch. And at some point you have to wonder, is there some sort of a disconnect between Aaron Rodgers and head coach Robert Saleh? And Boomer Esasion seems to think that that's exactly what's happening. I had to pause and make sure I didn't completely botch his name. As Boomer mentioned, I was pronouncing it so long before you just told me before this video started. And Boomer said that there's a major issue concerning the relationship between Aaron Rodgers and head coach Robert Saleh. Now, as Boomer mentioned, now I remember those days when he was a quarterback, because I had those days with 2 coaches in particular, and it was because I didn't like the guy, I didn't trust the guy, I didn't know what he was doing, and it pissed me off. If you read my body language back in those days, with those teams that I was on, you could tell that I was pissed off. And when I see Aaron Rodgers on the sideline, I see him after the game in the post-game press conference. I mean, Boomer's saying it right there. He thinks that Rodgers looks upset. Obviously, as someone who's been a quarterback, as someone for 14 years, someone who also has been a quarterback on teams that he's upset with, there's a real world that Aaron Rodgers is upset. It's important to note that looking back last season, when the Jets brought in Aaron Rodgers, they kind of let Rodgers do whatever he wanted with the team. If you're a basketball fan, you understand that LeBron James has a massive effect on the players with his team, and it's called Le GM. A joke on his name, obviously, and him being the general manager almost at times. And we kind of let Aaron Rodgers do the Le GM thing with the New York Jets last season, not as much this year. But one thing that he never controlled was his head coach, and his head coach has stayed as Robert Saleh. The fact is, we know that Woody Johnson is not going to have Robert Saleh fired halfway through the season. He's basically said that a million times already, that Saleh would not get fired in the beginning of the season. He doesn't want to make an in-season coaching change. But there seems like there's some sort of disconnect between Saleh and Rodgers. And teams are not going to win if the quarterback and the head coach are not getting along. Do you think there's a disconnect here?
So, you might remember there was a moment in that Week 3 game against the New England Patriots where Robert Saleh and Aaron Rodgers on the sidelines, it was a little weird, and they kind of pushed into each other and, gave each other a little bit of a look, and Jets fans made a lot of it. They said it wasn't a big deal. Maybe they were right. Maybe they weren't. Right now, it certainly seems like they're not on the same page. So there's definitely something going on between them. But I'm less worried about Aaron Rodgers' connection with Robert Saleh, and I'm a lot more worried about his connection with Garrett Wilson, because we know the talent that Garrett Wilson is. We know the talent that Aaron Rodgers is. Where is the production for Garrett Wilson? It doesn't make any sense. You can, in fact, not only with Garrett Wilson, you can see with so many wide receivers on the Jets offense, they're just not on the same page as Aaron Rodgers is. On the second to last drive when the Jets went 4 and out, on 2nd and 3rd down, Aaron Rodgers threw the ball to nobody because the receiver just never even turned around to look for the football. So the offense isn't on the same page. The people breaking down the game who have access to the film that we don't have access to yet at 7:10 on Monday, they are talking about how the Jets' offensive game plan from Nathaniel Hackett was too simplistic, and when the Denver Broncos figured it out, they didn't have any wrinkles off of it to make adjustments to the adjustments by the defense. And this just is another piece of evidence that Nathaniel Hackett is not the offensive coordinator for the Jets long term. And you're talking about how maybe Robert Saleh, they're thinking about getting rid of him in the middle of the year, but I have to believe there's no way that happens, because There is no way this team gets better after getting rid of their head coach. That's not how football teams work.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that 1 week you steal a win like the Colts did with Jeff Saturday or the Raiders with Antonio Pierce last year, but that's not the way to do it. And the thing is, Aaron Rodgers, no matter what the game plan is, Nathaniel Hackett calls a play, and Aaron Rodgers, we know, he gets to the line, he starts playing Madden, he calls audibles, he hot routes everybody, he changes the play to whatever he wants it to be. But at some point, he's got to get support from his head coach, his offensive coordinator, his play callers, and they got to put together a better offensive scheme for the New York Jets.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Changing the head coach, it's just then a matter of chaos throughout the entire team. The entirety of the vibes will change, and even if that's helpful in the short term, I don't see how it would be helpful for the rest of the season. It doesn't make sense to fire Saleh at this point in the season. It's also 4 games in. Sometimes teams have bad losses also. There's just a world where they were off. That's perfectly understandable. The problem is, as you mentioned a lot earlier in the video, it's only 17 games, only so many games that you could be off, and you're playing a 4-0 Vikings team in London. Now, that does help that you're not playing an away game in Minnesota, but still, it's not an easy game to win by any means. The Vikings defense looks incredible. Sam Darnold is the greatest football player of all time by a mile. Like, it's just this situation where, yes, the Jets can obviously win the game. The Jets are a great team. They're better than a 2-2 team, but it's not going to be easy to win. So hopefully they do win this game. But honestly, guys, last things, Matt, I feel like you have to say something. You just opened your mouth.
Yeah. What was it? It was So, week 1, the loss looked really bad. A lot of people were talking about how the Jets look terrible, and we told everyone, chill out, give them some time. Games 2 and 3, they proved us right. Game 4, they looked bad again. We're not going to say it's all right anymore. There are no more excuses for this team. It's now or never. This team on Sunday, they look like a team is going to win 7, 8, or 9 games. That's not going to be good enough for this team. We need to make the playoffs. A Super Bowl is probably not a realistic expectation for a team that hasn't been to the playoffs in as long as the New York Jets have not been to the playoffs. But the New York Jets, they have to play better. They have to at least get to 10, 11 wins, make the playoffs, and make some noise in the playoffs to build on that for next year, get everyone in the building, on the roster, playoff experience so they can go forwards and hopefully win a Super Bowl in the future. But the number one point, back to Garrett Wilson, real quick, Mike Williams, Allen Lazard, getting more yards than him I don't know how that happens. We're talking about on the broadcast. Patrick Surtain is following Garrett Wilson across the field on the outside. So Garrett Wilson, he's going up against an all-pro level corner, but he wasn't following him into the slot. So why is Nathaniel Hackett not putting Garrett Wilson into the slot? We know he's good enough. The offensive play calling has to get better. The scheme has to get better. The team has to win games, hands down. I don't care that the Vikings are 4-0, 25-0. They need to win. They got to win 2 of the 3 next week. Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Minnesota, 1 neutral site, 1 home game, 1 away game. Got to win 2 of the 3. That's the end of the story.
Facts. Subscribe. Go Jets. This was a long video. Have a great day, y'all.